block, and he can light you up while doing either.
Well, and the good news, as you said, what are the Steelers' plans for him? They brought him in for a pre-draft visit. One of the 14 offensive line that came here to the UPMC Rooney Sports Complex. I think
no stone unturned.
You might have known they wanted to get an offensive lineman or two. Who knows how the rest of this draft is going to go for the Steelers, but we will be able to take everybody live upstairs to hear from head coach Mike Tomlin and GM Omar Khan, as you said. And just a cool story about Troy. You know, we saw him when it was announced on NFL Network and ESPN at home in Las Vegas with his family. And he grew up a Steelers fan, a Troy Polamalu fan, wore 43 when he was young. His name's Troy. I mean, it seems like it fits perfectly.
Yeah, and it's interesting, you know, he played left tackle at Washington, but that was a left-handed quarterback in Michael Penix Jr. So that's actually the front side tackle, which he would be playing if they moved him to the right and Broderick Jones over to the left. I don't imagine Mike Tomlin's going to outline that plan for us in minutes when we get to hear him, but it'll sort itself out eventually. The important thing is, Missy, they must have really liked Troy Fautanu, because some of the players that the Steelers passed on to make this pick, you mentioned all the quarterbacks falling. 6 of them go in the first 12 picks. Steelers had a shot at a couple of cornerbacks of note. Terrion Arnold of Alabama, Quinion Mitchell of Toledo, Cooper DeJean of Iowa. Didn't bother to go there. Brian Thomas, wide receiver from LSU, another highly regarded prospect at a position where the Steelers are perceived by a lot of people to be in need of some help in this draft. A couple of interior linemen, center candidates, Graham Barton from Duke and Jackson Powers Johnson of Oregon. Missy, all these guys on the board, and the Steelers went right to the tackle that, well, it looks like this is one of the guys on the very short list of players they envisioned all along.
Well, and as you said, bringing in so many of those different guys that they started at the Senior Bowl, then going to the Combine, in here for the pro days, and then the 30 visits that they're able to have here. It was very clear what they were trying to improve on. I think also, you know, depending on what happens, Dan Moore, he has 1 year left of his contract. As you said, Omar Khan made it very clear starting at the Combine and throughout the rest of this offseason leading up to today, they want Broderick Jones to move to the left side. And we've seen the Steelers really revamp that offensive line. If you go back to Ben Roethlisberger's last year, Marquise Pouncey retired before Ben did, and things just started to go haywire, trading some of their offensive linemen in recent years as well. And this is one of those guys that has that physicality, that mentality that I think Andy Weidel and Omar Khan have talked about since taking over the scouting department, of what they're looking for in a Steelers player on the line of scrimmage. Yeah,
and a guy, as we mentioned, with some position flexibility. So who knows what the best 5 is going to look like when they eventually get around to playing games that count. But it's great to have options. There you see him coming off of one block and executing another one. This is a very interesting selection, as first-round picks always are. There he is again, getting out on the wing on a little flanker screen. Some of the analysts that I studied regarding Fautanu also believe he would be center capable, so there's more of that position flexibility. But the idea, again, coming into this draft, you were better positioned to get a really good tackle than you otherwise normally would be at 20th overall. They just drafted Broderick Jones last year. Now it seems like they've got a bookend. I don't know who's the left bookend and who's the right bookend, and vice versa, but it looks like they've taken some major steps toward locking that position down.
And as you said it, I don't think Coach Tomlin's going to maybe give us those answers just yet, especially not tonight, but I'm sure at the first OTA we will all be diligently looking at who is working at what position with what line, what are the different combinations, and how they're going to sort through this. But this was just the first pick of round 1. They still have tomorrow. They have the 51st overall, and then 2 in the 3rd, number 84 and 98. So who knows what can happen in terms of adding to the offensive line possibly, but this is now the 4th year in a row they've gone with an offensive player after what seemed to always be a defensive guy being used with the first-round pick.
Yeah, and first offensive lineman in quite some time, other than Broderick Jones. There had been a drought.
Go back to DeCastro.
Yeah. You know what's interesting, too, is those interior linemen that I mentioned, Jackson Powers Johnson, Graham Barton, even Zach Frazier of West Virginia. These guys are all still on the board. At least they were still on the board when we started doing this report. And who knows, some extra picks. Multiple picks in the 3rd round, multiple picks in the 6th round. if they are so inclined to maybe trade up from 51 on round 2 and maybe take care of center, maybe you just check a couple of boxes on the offensive line here right at the outset of the draft.
No doubt about it. And as we said, hopefully in just a little bit, we'll be able to take you live upstairs here at the UPMC Rooney Sports Complex to hear from Omar Khan and Mike Tomlin. Always customary after the first round pick is made. Sometimes they come down a little bit faster, sometimes a little bit slower. But as you know, things have been crazy in this first round, as you mentioned, just with the run of quarterbacks that we saw, the run of offensive players that we saw. It took till pick 15 to get to a defensive guy.
Really surprising. And again, there were some pretty good cornerbacks on the board. In fact, all of them when the Steelers' turn came up.
Didn't see that coming.
Teams just started getting around to drafting edge rusher. Dallas Turner went 17th to Minnesota through Jacksonville. And then you saw Jared Verse, another edge rusher, go to the Rams right before the Steelers pick. But, this is a guy who was widely mocked to the Steelers. Of course, there are a million mocks, and you could probably find 10 or 11 players who somebody thought the Steelers were going to draft in the first round. But Troy Fautanu was a popular choice in the pre-draft coverage, and lo and behold, they got their guy at tackle, Missy.
They did, and we got to see the Walter Payton Man of the Year. Cam Hayward was live in Detroit, got to announce him as the first-round pick, welcome him to the Steelers family, so that was cool That was cool as well. And tomorrow, Pat Freiermuth will be announcing some of the round 2 and round 3 picks for the Steelers.
Yeah, a little bit more on the number 1 selection. Often with offensive linemen, you hear, can they get to the second level? I've seen a couple people, including Daniel Jeremiah of the NFL Network, talk about Fautanu as having third-level capability in the run game. He can start at the point of attack, and then he can get to the linebacker, and then he can get somebody even further down the field after that. And again, really has some explosive wow factor blocks on his tape. Those will be a little harder to collect in the NFL. But he's also got that position flexibility, which the Steelers clearly covet. Here is Dane Brugger of The Athletic's synopsis. Quote, overall, Fautanu is explosive on the move and at contact with the foot quickness, body control, and temperament to stack wins in both pass protection and as a run blocker in the NFL. While he has the talent to remain at tackle, his skill set also projects well to guard and center, and he offers legitimate 5-position potential at the next level. So who knows? Maybe he's the center.
The more and more as we're sitting here and we're talking about it and discussing it, it feels like, we're kind of at a bar on the south side or the north shore with everybody going, what are they going to do with this guy? Will be interesting to hear from the Steelers brass of what they have learned about him through this intimate process that, takes months and goes on forever and culminates with this moment. And as we said, you could just see how excited he was whenever he got the phone call, most likely from head coach Mike Tomlin, who said earlier this week during their pre-draft press conference how, it's a special moment for the player, but for him, he's trying to read him, see how he's feeling, what he does, is the family there, that kind of thing. So more of an information gathering thing for him. Yeah,
and a moment that the pick will obviously never forget. Mike Tomlin and Omar Khan still haven't made their way into the media room upstairs. And again, I'm not expecting them to lay out the exact plan tonight, but boy, it's going to be interesting to see how this all comes together either this spring or maybe this summer at St. Vincent College.
All right, well, the good news is I do see some of the media starting to go in the media room. They're not there just yet. I think we're all anxiously awaiting, as you said, to hear what they had to say. But I think, again, no surprise that they went with an offensive lineman. I do think it was interesting as we were sitting here watching the draft unfold to see what the Steelers would do with that pick, being that they didn't have to trade up like they did last year to get a player that they really wanted. They were able to stay put at 20. They still have their draft capital. And maybe tomorrow's the day where if there's another person they really want, they can make some maneuvers there, because that's something that Omar Khan is clearly setting the trend of how he likes to be in terms of being aggressive.
Yeah, and the number of guys that were still on the board that were highly ranked, really intriguing players at positions that I expect the Steelers to address at some point over this 3-day period. We got to believe they're going to come away with at least one corner at some point, right?
Wide receiver.
They're going to come away with a wide receiver at some point. And there were some highly ranked players still on the board, but they went right for the tackle. Maybe tomorrow they get the center. that a lot of people think they need, and then you have offensive line box checked and offensive line box checked.
And I think, it's always interesting whenever you get closer and closer. I think things start changing. We start hearing of the stock rising of certain players and whatnot. But it just felt like the Steelers were staying true to, at least from what the outside of what we thought they were doing, maybe what their plan was in terms of going with this guy for pick number 20.
Yeah, a lot of times they say that, we just followed the board, and everybody kind of rolls their eyes. Yeah, sure you did. Seems kind of believable here because, again, a lot of players that a lot of people thought a lot of were still there when Mike Tomlin, who's making his way to the media room podium now, and Omar Khan made the selection.
All right, let's take it upstairs and get a listen from them.
Omar, guys. Thanks. Appreciate you guys all being here. As you guys know, we drafted Troy Fautanu. Excited to have him as a member of this organization. He's a Steeler. We spent a great deal of time with him. We met with Troy at the Combine. Pat Myers attended his pro day. We had him in here for a 30 visit, and like I said, we're excited to have him here, and can't wait for the rookie camp to see him here.
Is he sticking left or is he
1 second here.
I'm sorry.
Really excited about Troy, as Omar said. Man, the tape was just really, really impressive. Not only in terms of his talents, but really, I think his talents were really highlighted by the way that Washington utilized his talent schematically. Man, you saw everything that you wanted to see. You saw him out in space in the perimeter game, be it crack toss or wide receiver screens. He was great in the run game. He was a great drop back passer, pass protector. We had great visits through the process. We went to Tuscaloosa, obviously, to handle some Alabama business, but we had an opportunity to really talk to some people in Tuscaloosa that had some firsthand knowledge of his capabilities, the coaching staff, and he just checked every box. We're really excited to have him, and we'll pause and open it up for questions.
Does he stick at left tackle or do you try him on the right side?
Right now, he's a tackle. Maybe we'll have a little bit more detail for you in the morning.
Is he center capable?
No, we're not concerned about that. We legitimately see him as a tackle.
Omar, how much did it help that 6 quarterbacks were taken early in that draft development?
Yeah, I'm sure that in the grand scheme of things, that definitely helped. Not just for us. I'm sure there are other teams that helped. But so we're excited to have him.
Omar, to that point, you have every corner on the board, many wide receivers on the board, every center on the board. Is there anything about your valuation of the tackle position that came into play in this equation as well? Is it just about the player?
Yeah, I would say that he was a player that we had rated really high up on the board, and he was one of the guys that we were hoping would be there and that we were targeting. And when he was, we were on the clock when we were at 19 and waiting to see what the Rams picked, and it was just we just felt really good about it. He's the player we wanted.
I think position aside, he was the highest rated guy on our board, and so that just speaks to our level of excitement about having an opportunity to get him.
Omar, as this went on, did you field any calls or Larry was dropping about maybe moving back?
Yeah, I mean, the phone was ringing, obviously, to move up, move back. It's just part of it. And at the end of the day, we had the opportunity to move back if we wanted to. But when we were at 19 and waiting for the Rams to make their selection, and they picked who they picked, and we weren't gonna.
We weren't moving off Troy.
No.
You mentioned his tape being impressive, but when you guys met with him, what off the field impressed you?
His commitment to the game, his passion for the game really was very evident in communicating with him. That was relayed to us by those that had an opportunity to not only coach him, but we talked to a lot of guys that played with him. His passion is real. It is a calling card, coupled with his tremendous athletic talent.
Can you speak with you guys about his affection for Troy, the tattoo, and everything? I'll talk about the other Troy.
Yeah, a lot of that. I think his dad is the original Steeler fan in the household. But just, he's really excited to be here. We'll let him speak for himself. But he is just a very impressive young man. Upside, young guy in the draft pool, a lot of talent, passion for the game. We're just really excited.
Omar, you took over a couple of years ago. I know Andy was even talking about building out the trenches, the offensive line. 2 years in, you pretty much did that. Why is that so important to you guys as an organization to have those guys up front? That's where you started.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's for obvious reason. I've said it from the beginning. The offensive line, defensive line, those are big priorities. The big men, and that's where it starts, right? We want to be a physical football team, and it's got to start up there.
Mike, obviously most tackles check in at 6'4" or taller at this level. What is it about Troy that gives you the confidence you can do it? And are there other guys that he reminds you of who've done it at his size?
What are we talking about? If he was a quarter of an inch taller, you might not be asking that. He's got great arm length, and his tape is very, very impressive. It's probably one of the reasons why he was available to us, so we really probably appreciate his stature, to be quite honest with you.
Omar, is it tough just to sit there and wait when you like this guy so much and thinking, maybe I need to move up 1 or 2?
Every one of those 10 minutes were the longest 10 minutes of my life. I promise you that. Yeah.
He is not kidding you either, man.
Yeah.
Like, he wore me out.
Is that W true whenever it's that many tackles that go in front?
Oh, absolutely. But and just because it's him, like Coach mentioned, he was really high on our board, and just hoping he'd still be there at 20. And it's glad. I don't even know what time it is right now, but it's 10:53. Yeah, it just can't say enough about how excited we are to have him. This guy loves football. I mean, I can't wait for you guys to get the opportunity to talk to him.
Just turn the tape on.
Yeah, this guy loves it.
Omar, it seemed like it was really high in a lot of other people's scores earlier. There were some stories that came out about medical concern about his knee that bumped him down. Are you guys okay on that front?
We wouldn't select them if we weren't comfortable with it, and I can't speak for some of the stuff that's put out there and what's true and what's not, and what other people are saying, but we're comfortable.
Like, how was that phone call? He seemed pretty emotional on screen.
I'm sorry?
He seemed pretty emotional. How was that phone call?
He was. We were laughing at him a little bit earlier because he looked angry because some tackles were coming off. But you want that. You want a guy that takes it personally, and I think that he does. He just shows all the signs of the type of guy that we want to do business with. It's important to him.
Obviously, y'all spoke about he's on the field and off the field. Were there any other qualities that stood out to you regarding him?
I just think his relationship with the game is a pure one, man. He's a competitor. He loves football. He loves the things that come with football based on talking to those around him, the preparation things, the training, practice. He's a black and gold type of a guy.
He's a great teammate. He's a great teammate also.
You guys talked about sort of the pre-draft process, but maybe early in the process, I don't know if it was during college football season or whatever, but do you remember anything about how he first got on your radar? I know Washington played a lot of good games, and maybe how you first got interested in him.
Yeah, our scouts early on, they felt really good about him. Mark Bruner, he's a Washington alum. He's one of our scouts, and I joke with him. I think the only school he scouts is the University of Washington because he talks about those guys so often. But he was the guy we were intrigued by early on.
For me, watching them late in the season, just trying to, they were making a lot of noise out west as a collective, as a football team. And so I can remember laying in the hotel room watching them late one evening, and it was just really impressive schematically, the things that they were doing that highlighted his skills. Their perimeter game was very left-handed, and just watching it from a spectator's perspective, it just let you know that their left tackle was a special player in their eyes just by play selection. Not very often do you watch tape and see plays being called a highlight a guy that's not ineligible. But that's what it looked like watching UW tape.
Anyone else? All right.
Great.
We
Thanks,
will
guys.
have the press conference
Thank you.
tomorrow at 4 o'clock.
All right, welcome back inside our studios here at the UPMC Rooney Sports Complex. If you could not tell, Omar Khan and Mike Tomlin very happy with the selection they made tonight, and a lot of great things that they had to say. But the one that we talked about before they spoke was where would he play, and I think Mike Tomlin made it very clear. a tackle. We just don't know what side yet.
He said maybe tomorrow. Do you think we'll find out tomorrow?
No.
I don't think so
I don't think
either.
so either,
But
no.
you know what, Missy? When you have a chance to add a guy who's a top 10 overall player on a lot of people's boards, you do it. And I thought Omar seemed pretty sincere, to me at least, there when he was talking about, you know, how long the 10 minutes where he wanted to get that pick made, you know. And I guess they were doing their due diligence and talking about maybe moving back. Omar said the opportunity was there to do so, but they decided they had their guy, and they decided to stick and pick. And now we'll see how it unfolds. But two really interesting observations, at least to me, from Mike Tomlin there. Number one, he doubled down on how impressed he was and the impression it made upon him that Washington schematically featured this guy and went left-handed, as Tomlin put it, with the perimeter game, betraying just how highly Washington thought of the kid playing left tackle for the Huskies. And the other Tomlin answer there that got my attention a little bit, actually it's more of a Tomlin assessment. He just shows all the signs of the type of guy we want to do business with. His relationship to the game is a pure one. He's a black and gold kind of guy.
And they made it very clear that staying at 20, they weren't moving off of him because he was the best available on their board as they sat there. Talked about his passion, his calling card, just the upside of a young guy. And I think also, you know, the fact that they were gathering information from some of the coaching staff down in Tuscaloosa.
How about that, huh?
Mike Tomlin and Omar Khan were not physically at his pro day, which is typically not what happens with a first-round draft pick, but the offensive line coach, Pat Meyer, was there. And as they said as well, one of the Steelers' longtime scouts, Mark Bruner, played at Washington, lives there. His son played with Troy, so they got to probably know a little bit about him as well. And even, you know, Omar was talking about what a great teammate and leader he is and the different things when they had a chance to meet with him on several occasions.
Yeah, and Mike Tomlin mentioning they had some Alabama business down in Tuscaloosa. Well, the new coach at Alabama, the guy who took over for Nick Saban, Kalen DeBoer, was the old coach at Washington. So they kind of killed two scouting birds with one stone, I guess. And I'm sure the new Alabama staff was appreciative of what the old Washington players did to help get that staff to Alabama. It's a fun start to the draft. And Missy, I think we're just getting started. I think there are some more layers to this onion that need to be unpeeled, and might make me smile, not cry.
Yeah, we got 2 more days of it. And, you know, Omar Khan even joked he didn't know what time it was. And Coach Tomlin said he wore him out just for, you know, it just felt like it was dragging and dragging to get to pick 20. But we finally made it. And the good news is we're going to be able to do this again tomorrow. The Steelers currently do have 3 picks for day 2. And you and I will be here back down in the studio to give the instant analysis, send it up to the different assistant coaches that we get to hear from, which I always enjoy, just to learn that part of the process of what makes these guys tick and why they feel they belong on the Steelers roster.
Yeah, it should be another eventful day. I'm looking forward to it.
All right, sounds good. Thanks so much for joining us here at the UPMC Rooney Sports Complex. Have a great night, and we'll see you tomorrow for more Steelers draft coverage.